Hey, it's Paris. Back with more from my trip to Obsidian Entertainment to check out Avowed. Now, in this video, we're going to do an interview about narrative design in Avowed, and I had the chance to sit down with Kate Dollarhyde. She is the narrative designer at Obsidian Entertainment, and I got to speak with Berto Ritger. He is the region director on Avowed, obviously, again, at Obsidian Entertainment. But it was a fun conversation I had with them, but I did want to intro this to give you a heads up. I had another technical issue as we were recording this on camera, so the majority of this will be on camera, but then you'll see a hard cut to just pure gameplay, and then we'll just have audio for the rest of the interview. So again, audio might sound a little weird towards the end, but that's just, hey, had to do what I had to do to get this out. But again, it's a fun conversation. Really enjoyed my time talking with Kate and Berto, and I think you will too. So here we go. This is my interview about narrative design for Avowed, coming from Obsidian Entertainment, and look for Avowed coming February 18th, 2025 on Xbox and PC. Talk to you soon. Hey, it's Paris. I am still here at Obsidian. And I have still played Avowed, but I have two more people here to talk about the game. So can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Kate Dollarhyde. I'm a narrative designer at Obsidian, and I'm working on Avowed.
I'm Berto Ritger. I'm our region director on Avowed. What that means is basically area design for regions, and area design at Obsidian means basically quest and level design into one role. It's a very Obsidian thing. Sorry for the explanation, but it's kind of required.
The heart of
yeah,
design.
yeah.
Well, first and foremost, thank you both for taking the time to talk to me about the game, and thank you for that explanation because I was probably going to ask anyways. But actually, I want to start with you because I want to talk about. I've now this is my second time playing Avowed, and this is the longest time I've been able to play it now. For it was about 2 hours I got to play. Your dialogue's really good.
Oh, I'm so glad you like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you laughing?
I definitely laugh, and I'm gonna tell you my favorite part. It was in the prologue, and it was the woman that was in the prison.
Oh, Alora, yes.
And we'll get into dialogue choices in a sec, but I was purposely being mean.
Oh, yeah.
And I left her.
You left her there.
I left her.
Oh, so you got to see the result of that, didn't you?
No, actually I didn't, because at one point I didn't 100% finish the prologue, and they were like, all right, let's just go ahead and jump to, into the main area that we were. And then she was there.
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have left her. What was I mean? But the reason I bring that up is I love the dialogue choices in there and the impact they potentially could have in the game.
Totally.
And just what she was saying to me when I left her, I thought was absolutely hilarious. So kind of talk about that a little bit, the narrative choices that you're bringing into Avowed.
Yeah, absolutely. So the concept of, play your way or player agency is really at the core of the games that we make at Obsidian. That's true for all our RPGs, and it's true of Avowed too. And so when we're designing our conversations, when we're designing our quests, we really want to give the player as much freedom to, express themselves and play the character they want to play as much as they want. Right. So that means you can be a hero, you can be a villain, you can be funny, you can use your skills or your attributes in conversation to get new quest outcomes, get new information, stuff like that. It's something we've done in Pillars 1 and Pillars 2 and bringing forward into Avowed now.
Excellent. Now, I want to turn to you because
Sure.
you gave an explanation for what your role is here on Avowed. Kind of talk about that more. What exactly does that mean as far as with these regions that we'll be exploring?
So similar to Outer Worlds, we have an open zone structure. Yeah. So our regions they have their own core identity, visual style, and tone narratively. They have their own main story quest, and that will lead you to the next region of the Living Lands. But as a region director, basically, I'm in charge of how the level design, the narrative design, and the art come together to tell the kind of same cohesive story. So it's a very collaborative process. It's not just me. It's all of us working together. And Kate and I have worked very closely together, like on Dawn Treader, the demo that we showed at Gamescom. And that was a very collaborative experience between telling, like, what is this character of Sargamas, this gold-skinned godlike character, and how does his the amount of time he spent in this dungeon underground, how does that reflect in both the environment and the dialogues? Like you can talk his ear off if you really want. You can kind of skip through that, but you can also discover little pieces of like the books that he's collected over the years in his library, and also the fact that that library is now completely flooded, and that's a result of this tumultuous landscape that is part of the story that will be explored as you go throughout the Living Lands. But we want to show you that both visually and in the storytelling, so that you can get bits and pieces of everything, no matter where you go.
No, that is fantastic. Just to stick on that for just a second, because obviously Obsidian, it's a team effort for everything that you do, but it sounds even more specifically for your job as region director, you have to work with narrative. You got to get the art team in. You got to understand, all right, here's the story. Here's where we're taking these characters. Here's the different scenarios these characters could go. Here's how the world has to be set up to make all that happen.
Yeah, I think like you bring up Allura in the prologue. That's also an experience. Like choices and consequences are so core to Obsidian's games and to RPGs and to this game. And we want to forecast that to you as a player immediately. We want to give you choices and even how that first hour of the game is going to play out and how that's going to impact the way that you play the rest of Dawnshore and things after that. And that comes up kind of, it's planned from the beginning, and it also is very emergent because we're a very collaborative team and we're all playing each other's stuff and giving feedback constantly. Ideas are coming from every direction, and we obviously have to triage those things to make sure the game gets finished and everything. But like artists will have ideas about narrative, and they have ideas about design and vice versa and all of that. So it's a little bit of all of us everywhere in this game.
So my question for you is, again, the way that this world is set up, the way the dialogue is set up, there's obviously there's consequences, the whole thing that you go through these dialogues. So it's very complex. I would naturally assume. How does that work? Because I know nothing. I just play games. So the fact that I get to ask you these questions is very enlightening for me. So how does that work from a narrative standpoint? Like, all right, here's the game that they're building. I have these great ideas for these stories. Here's all these different choices. And then someone from another team comes to you, well, yeah, that's not going to work. So then you have to pivot at that point, right? So
totally.
How often does things like that come up for you?
You know, it's here and there.
Yeah.
We're working we have like basically two teams split up, one working in one region and one in another at the same time. And they're talking back and forth as they're developing their work so that we make sure, we're not stepping on the toes of the region coming after us, or we're not duplicating their content. So everyone's making unique stuff. So you just have to be flexible in terms of the story you're trying to tell, and just really hold on to the core that matters. Like if you have a character who's telling a story about, a lost love, there's a number of ways you can tell that story, and I think it can be adaptable to the various circumstances, but you still want to hold on to that core and keep the narrative, heart alive there.
So I want to stick with you for just a second, because again, my curiosity with these things, right? So how involved are you with the voice cast for Avowed as far as bringing this story to life? Like, well, I need this certain tone, this inflection, things like that, as far as the dialogue that you're writing.
Yeah, we're very lucky in that we get to be involved in the entire VO process. So when it comes time to start recording our dialogues, we'll write sides, which are basically summaries of the characters that we're casting for, get a little screenshot of them, get some like representative dialogue from them, and just a short paragraph about who they are, what they want, and what they're about in the world, what kind of content they show up in. And then those get sent out for casting. We get the casting recordings back, and we talk about those as a group, where it's like, ooh, does this really suit the vibe of the character that I've created,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
And every once in a while you get really lucky, and it's like, yeah, this person just inhabited this role. And that's like the most fun part of it. And then we get to be in the recording sessions too, to provide context and work with the voice director to get the best performance for that character that really like sends the vision. It's a blast.
So again, one other curious, and then I want to bring it to you. So the fact that you're actually involved in the voice recordings with these actors, if the actor has a suggestion or improvises on something, is that something where you're like, no, you need to stick to the script, or depending on what it is, like, hey, maybe that was a great idea, let's run with that for the game?
Yeah, totally. It's it kind of depends on where we are in production, but generally we do get to be a little bit flexible.
Okay.
Like if we haven't sent the dialogue out for translation yet, then at that point, yeah, we can totally change it. If you think your character wouldn't say it like this, absolutely, let's change that. Or if this flows weird, like it just doesn't roll off the tongue, we can fix that really easily. That's one of the best things about working with the actors, is because they have incredible insights about story, and they know how to give great performances, of course, so they can really guide us in, crafting the best experience.
So I want to bring this back to you and bring this more to level design. And I'm just thinking encounters that you'll have in the world, boss battles, things like that. So how involved are you? Like the combat team is, hey, we have this set piece that we want to do. So is it also part of your job to come in and go, all right, here's the layout of the world of this arena that I'm going to have that encounter?
Yeah, we want a experience that tells a narrative and is well paced, but also gives you that gameplay breadth and depth that you really want. And combat encounters especially, we want those spaces to be wider, flatter areas, and give you also some verticality so that you can use your bow or your grimoire or your arquebus if you get later in the game and you want to blast some Zarups. So there's a lot of options available, but we want to keep those combat spaces as clear as like clutter and things like that, and visual stuff that could block enemies from sight. And we'll have like stealth grass as well. So if you want to play a more stealth-oriented character, you can kind of sneak up on encounters, pick people off ahead of time. So that's all baked into how we build our environments. And then for instance, the Strangle route, which is like kind of the main story quest. I don't know if you've reached that far.
No, I don't think I did. No.
Okay. Well, I won't talk too much.
Okay.
But there's a very big boss arena space in that area, and we wanted to both give you enough space to fight in, but also give you this like looming like overhead. Oh my God, nature is so imposing on me. Like I'm just this little thing in this big world. So we want to give you that good gameplay experience, but also sell the narrative while we're doing that.
So sticking along that, because I was talking to the art team before I talked to you. So I'm curious how that collaboration works, because they're obviously looking to be very innovative and creative with the designs that they have. So is it a team effort with you of, hey, the art team's going, well, here's a concept that we have, and you're like, well, that doesn't kind of fit in the world that we're in, so I need you to do this, or vice versa? Yeah,
often, I mean, we can kind of rely on our team to make things look really, really pretty. And so on the design side, it's often like we're talking about what is the character that lives in this space, or what kind of story are we trying to implicitly tell through the environment. So like in Dawnshore, you'll notice that the base of most of the buildings are built on these gray stone structures that are crumbling. Those are the Pargrunin, they came to Living Lands hundreds of years ago. They left these buildings a long time ago. There's also, and people built on top of them, and it's like this multicultural frontier of people that are building on top of what they found, and then nature is reclaiming it. There's ivy growing up and stuff, and all of that doesn't necessarily impact the layout necessarily, but it's trying to tell you a story. But on top of that, we're also like, we have a very beautiful game, very visually dense game, and so on the design side, we're kind of like pushing back at times when we're in the gameplay space. We're like, we need some clarity here. Like, this space shouldn't have like tons of foliage, because we want to be able to see the enemies. We want to be able to pick stuff off from a distance. We want you to see this particular focal point from a certain distance. So it's like, okay, everything on the periphery looks really good. We want a clear sight line here, but it's a give and take. But obviously, we want things to look good. We don't want everything to just be barren. But we want targeted, like, okay, this is an important thing that we want to highlight, or this is an area where you're not going to be fighting stuff, so we can get a bit more granular with the artistic detail.
Awesome. So bring this back to you from a narrative standpoint. So obviously this is in the Pillars universe. So for you, I would assume there's, for lack of a better term, there's a lore Bible that you have to stand by to make sure that you're being accurate in that. So again, how much is that playing into some of the new directions that you may be taking in Avowed, where you don't want to betray basically the past of where it's coming from, but obviously you want to have the creative freedom, to take the story where you think it needs to go.
Yeah, totally. So when we were making Avowed, we were very mindful that we had already made 2 games in this setting, of course. So we wanted to respect the players who had played these games and loved them, the game set in the world of Eora, and so build on that experience and give them, content that respected the lore, referenced it, made it feel real and lived in, and then also created new experiences that didn't, leave players new to the world out in the cold, essentially. So we wanted to make sure everybody had interesting things that were new to them when they came to Avowed. So we're really trying to, look at the ethos of Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2, and then carry that forward into Avowed in the content that we make. There is quite a lot of lore.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. I can imagine. Now, I've asked everybody this question, so I'm going to ask both of you the same question. What is something that you've experienced in Avowed that you're excited for people to see for themselves, if you can say it?
Ooh. Do you want to go first, Berto?
Sure.
So the audio is about to sound a little different here, but the question that I had for you, what was kind of something you're excited for people to experience in Avowed?
Yeah. There's a lot of handcrafted stuff in the game. There's a lot of secrets, big and small. Some of them are totally world altering, but I won't say too much more about those. There's one thing right at the beginning of the game, and if you go underneath the docks on the eastern side of where you are at the beginning, there's a little something to find there. There's some creatures down there, but I won't say too much more. There's a lot of those little nooks and crannies and stuff that we've snuck in, hidden in, things you can climb, and I'm really excited for that. I mean, I think generally speaking, like that's kind of a specific example, but generally speaking, our parkour system, our climbing system it's very robust. You can climb on just about everything in the environment. We talked a little bit earlier about like clarity of the environment. It's another thing that the design art are always talking about, like how do we make the ledges nice and flat? Sometimes we'll put some ropes hanging down to kind of forecast you, hey, you can climb on this. But basically all the buildings in the environment, you can climb on top. There's going to be stuff to find, and you can jump across rooftops and climb the lighthouse and climb cliffs and all of that. So that's very excited. It's added a lot more verticality to the world than we've done before. So really pumped for people to experience that.
I think people are going to love that. Personally, I'm super excited about the variety of choice and consequence we've baked into Avowed. We've really taken the Obsidian design ethos for the way we make our RPGs and baked that right into Avowed. I think players are going to be surprised at the degree to which they can alter some of the storylines in this game, and some of the secret ways to resolve major quests, major events in the world. I think people will be surprised to find on their own, or to read about later, or to hear about from their friends. And that's, for me, is always the most exciting part, is seeing players talk about the game amongst themselves and share their amazing experiences that they had with their friends. And that, to me, is like the whole reason to make games. It's so fun.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And thank you both for your answers on that. What you said is been the common thing that everyone's been saying to me when I asked that question, is the player choice. That people are going to get their hands on these games, and it's like you're handing this off to the world, and you're going to get these completely different experiences as a result, where the combat works, the exploration, things like that. So I'm very excited for it. Like I said, this is my second time being able to play it, and to just see how it's improved just in these few short months since the last time I played it. I'm very excited for it.
That's
I'm a huge
awesome.
Obsidian fan. And I will say again, the dialogue that you're putting into the narrative is fantastic. I love the choices that you're having. Very fun.
Thank you so much. That really makes me so happy.
Of course. But here's the funny thing. And the audio is weird because my battery died, so I'm recording this on my phone. So I have to keep the real world in. But the language, the foul language.
Oh, yeah,
laugh.
you can swear.
I was like, oh.
Yeah, go ahead and take it off.
I
Why
was touching my
not?
throat.
Yeah.
No, but it's really good. So I'm excited for February. I can't wait till people get their hands on it.
Me too. Thank you so much for playing. I really appreciate
Yeah.
you coming out to see the game. Played it twice.
Yes.
And I'm glad it's improved.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you again, the world that you're building. I mean, we've obviously only seen limited zones,
Yeah.
so I'm very curious to
There's
see.
a lot of meat on the bone.
You're right.
I'm excited for people to experience it. It's so nice to finally have people play it in not a fully long form format, but longer than and actually get to see the open areas of the game. There's so much crammed in from everybody on the team. We're super pumped for people to get their hands on it finally.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both. I know we had some technical difficulties there at the end, but I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me about Avowed.
Yeah, thank you, Paris.
All right,
Yeah,
thank you.
you.